we were working on a very important project together with the IPW, which is the Institut Pierre Werner, who was doing a European project called Free Space, where together with 38 other Goethe-Institut all over Europe, they were discussing about the role of freedom in the cities, in the public space. The partner from Luxembourg was Croatia, Rijeka, and we're having here our colleagues and friends from Rijeka who worked on this project. Diane Krüger, who is the deputy director from the IPW, to tell you more about this project, Free Space.
It started 2 years ago, and in November last year we showed the exhibition and an installation called The Place It Has a Name from Jan de Toffoli, Elsa Raus and Lisa Kohl. And it was shown in the Kasematten-Theater in February, and now it's the second project today. Davor is the director of Drugo, our partner organization in Rijeka. It's a cultural institution. If you have a question, you can ask him afterwards. He will now tell you something about the background of the exhibition.
It's part of the project Free Space, and project was structured in a way that that there was a peers in a project, peers in a way, and that we in Rijeka organized workshop through which we come to the certain question, and the same process was going on here in Luxembourg in the framework of University of Luxembourg. And they asked us a question about the relation of free space and the freedom, and we were trying to figure out how to respond to this question. Of course, we knew that we can't give a some kind of final answer. But what we created, what we were thinking about, and that there was a proposition from Masha and Leo, to take two buildings in Rijeka that are kind of twin buildings, kind of the same structure. I mean, they are same in a way, kind of mirroring each other, and they were built in the 70s. But what was interesting about these cases, it was that tenants, people who were living there, they were using in a different way kind of common space that is quite big in those buildings. So these buildings were built in a kind of time when it was kind of socialism, in a kind of socialist period in ex-Yugoslavia. And one of the kind of tasks of the experts in ex-Yugoslavia was to elevate kind of standard of the citizens in a way. And one of the way how to do it was through the architecture. And architect Ninoslav Kuchan was creating the space that will be basically kind of, it will fulfill the needs of the people and kind of facilitate creation of the community. And space was somehow formed in a way to enhance kind of human interactions and to create kind of sort of community in those buildings. But through the period of years, 50 years, I mean, people were using differently this space, these two buildings, and we find out through the research, it's a kind of, there was two main governing paradigms, let's call them. One, it's related to the kind of fear, in a way, fear of the others and how you want to protect your space. And the other paradigm was more related to the kind of freedom of movement. So it's basically two paradigms, safety and the freedom, in a way. And this is how tenants of those buildings were organizing space kind of through these 5 decades. In one of those buildings, they created the walls in between how to call different parts of the structure, and now this kind of communal space was completely broke down. It was put it in compartments. While in the other building, was, people use this as a kind of communal space, kind of their joint space. And that we find out through this research, and that is presented here, it's a kind of fragment of this situation. You have here printed photographies from those two buildings, and also you have a newspaper where you can find the floor plan of these two buildings. One it's a blue, one other it's a red. And also quotes of the tenants, people who are living there, their kind of thoughts about this situation. So this is kind of our project, and I hope that you will find something to relate with, and that it's not just kind of specific talk of the several people who are living in a very specific place, but something that you can recognize that was our idea also in your own kind of life and perspective that you have.
It was interesting because the transformation of the architect's idea, that was really, it never happened in a way because of the failure of the socialism, but also because of economic things and the governance of the city at that time. So the idea about the space where tenants will meet each other, have kindergartens, bars, little shops, it never appeared in the way that he intended it to be. But some really intensive social things were going on in the buildings, both of them during 70s, 80s. But then what was very interesting, two buildings had different development. What is also interesting, the transformations that were made with materials that you can see here. And it's really irreversible also. So now some changes are going on that can say that blue building can become red, can become open again. And red is trying now to have some interventions that happen in the blue. But after these exhibitions and after our conversations with tenants, I think that the idea about how the open building is maybe even more protected, and because a lot of fears appeared after the war, fears, we call it unknown enemy. People don't know what they are afraid of, but they are building the walls, putting the constructions, they don't want to socialize anymore as before and things like that. So this is also speculation how easily buildings can be transformed again, like living organisms, what actually happened.